let's see. The Nutnfancy Project purchased this gun from a local gun store October 2011. It is now November 2012. So over a year later, here comes the official, if you want to call it that, Nutnfancy tabletop review on the SIG 1911 22 pistol. No, I did not want it to take that long. There are some reasons for that though. You guys know that, TMPers around the world. Most of them are lame, but there's a couple good ones. First and foremost, it's just one of many guns undergoing testing here in TMP, and it's just being juggled with a lot of other gear, so that takes a while. But the main reason is we had reliability problems with this gun. Significant reliability problems with it. I'm going to talk more about that when we go to reliability, durability portion of the review. But I actually was going to condemn the gun. I was just going to come out with a review in early 2012 and not recommend it. But I bit the bullet, sent it back to SIG to give it a fair shake. That's what I recommend to my viewers, my subscribers, that they do give the manufacturer an option, an opportunity to fix the item. I did that, and I'm happy to say it turned out a lot better for the GSG or the SIG 1911-22. When you dial into a Nutnfancy tabletop, you get real stuff. You don't get hype, you don't get crap. It doesn't mean I'm right about everything, but you're going to get a very, very honest data point, and it may jibe with your own, it may differ from your own, I just can't say, but it will be honest and true. And I guess that's why you guys find the time to keep watching the vids. So let's kick it off. Here we go, jumping right into the specifics. I'm going to start by saying this is a good looking 1911-22 right here. This particular version, I don't know if SIG is still putting this one out. Last year they were. It is obviously flat desert earth. I think that's Cerakoting on it. Wearing some GI style walnut grips, which are very handsome, US stamped. I just love the coloration. Non-railed version on this GSG. SIG 1911-22 GSG, whatever you want to call it. By the way, you can see a little bit of wear and tear on that Cerakote. It wears about like Duracoating in my experience. It'll wear off here and there, and I don't mind it, just makes it look cooler. If you go to SIG's website, at least in 2012, always subject to change, you'll see some other cool colors of this gun. I think they have a woodland camo version of it, which is very handsome. Black's running around there somewhere, and if you don't like it, you can always colorize it yourself with a coating service. Do it yourself, whatevs, onto POU. I'm going to go real light on this because I've talked so much in my videos about trainer guns and the philosophy of training with a gun that's chambered for 22 long rifle, and yet it is intended for your centerfire counterpoint. You guys know what the ammunition cost is these days, right? It's substantial. For a 45, what, 33 cents, 35 cents a round if you're lucky, versus 3 cents a round for 22 long rifle. There's the case right there for a 1911 trainer. It's what I said back in 2009 when I reviewed this conversion kit by Kimber. It's all taken apart off the side. It's also Duracoated. This was Duracoated by me. It's just in the bag with its 3 mags. That's a Kimber 1911 conversion kit, which on most frames here in TMP has ran pretty good. On some frames, not so much. Which brings us to an interesting approach to your 1911 training, 22 long rifle training equation. Do you go with a conversion kit or an RTR? Ready to run 1911-22. I'll tell you what, I mean, we did have reliability problems with this. Pretty much squared away. There, spilled the beans on that one. I almost prefer to go this route. Right here. I think overall you're going to get more reliability out of your gun because there's so many different frames that your slide will interface with. I have to tell you, I have not tried some of the higher quality 1911-22 conversion kits like the Wilson Combat, and it has somewhat of a different shape. It's not a traditional slide like we're seeing here. I suspect they're going to run better. Tactical Solutions has one as well that I think has a pretty good reputation. But if I'm going to spend $400 on a conversion kit, even $300, I would look very seriously about just buying a complete gun like this. And just, it's always put together. I think you're only disadvantaged by doing that. A couple, I guess. But one of them is if you've spent some frame time on your 1911 45 frame, maybe some customization, or, which will actually be kind of the counterpoint, centerfire for this review, you have a pretty squared away 1911 to begin with. This is a Smith & Wesson Pro Series. I think catalog number 178011. Last time I checked, they're still making it. It's an outstanding, older style of 1911 from Smith. I just love it. I've shot this a lot, and it's such a great gun. But if I were to put a conversion slide on this, then I take advantage of the front strap checkering, the Roco grips that this one has, the better trigger, beavertail safety, and all that stuff. So when you go with an RTR ready to run 1911, you're kind of stuck with what they give you. We're going to talk about the ergos here in a second. That's something you need to decide, but right now, snapshot in time, I'm more inclined to run a put-together 1911-22. And for me, it's more convenient. I don't have to swap slides out, even though that's really pretty simple to do. Your mileage may vary. There you can see made in Germany. German exportation marks, just like we saw on the Walther PPQ, other Walther guns. So, absolutely 1911 trainer. I'm not going to say any more about that. I will say, I usually hit this a fun gun. Extremely fun. Well, Nutnfancy, you say all 22s are fun. Actually, you say all guns are fun. I will say I don't say all guns are fun. Some are not that fun. Usually the subcompact, high-power ones, not so fun to shoot. And I have reviewed several in 12 that fall into that category. This one's fun. Very fun. Low recoil, has a very manageable recoil spring. If you're shooting with someone who is not used to pistol shooting, they may have a hard time cocking this Smith & Wesson 1911. This has a very stiff recoil spring, as most 1911 45s do. They run that way. They don't like it. A lot of blast, a lot of recoil. Oops, there I go again into the trainer. POU talking point. Whatever, you know what I'm saying. Fun gun, absolutely. I'm not even going to touch defensive use. To me, I just don't recommend it. There's so many other better options to go for, especially when you consider the size, weight, width of the SIG 1911-22. It's full size, almost full weight. A full weight 1911-20, not 22, but 1911 is going to be around 40 ounces. That's what this one is. Steel framed. This one's not running with a mag now. 40, 42 ounces. This one's almost there. The magazine of this gun will add more to the weight, making it almost completely analogous as far as how it feels in your hand. But getting back to a defensive philosophy of use, no. Carrying around a 35-ounce gun that's chambered in 22 long rifle, no. Not for me. The only time I've really got on board with a 22 long rifle defensive capability is when it's getting popped out of a little tiny lightweight gun. Kind of like the Ruger SR-22. Now that's a lighter weight, much more compact gun, more concealable. The balance, by the way, on this gun, it feels just like your 1911. Normal. It's a little bit lighter, just like I said. But overall, great balance, great pointing. That's what we love about 1911s. And to me, the 1911 is one of my favorite range guns when I want to make kids. Kind of like that, what was it, in 2011, the Eat Lead drill? Chad, PFI, Dad, Dude, we're shooting. I was rocking a Smith & Wesson stainless frame. Rocking and rolling, man. I mean, when an informal competition comes around, if I have enough money for 45, dude, 1911 all the way. I can hit with those suckers, man. With this, too. Amazing accuracy. Jumping ahead. Let's see, firepower. There is another 1911 out there. It is the Colt Walther, and it beats this one, which is 10 rounds. Not bad. I mean, that's a pretty standard loadout for most pistols. I mean, what else do I have on the table by way of reference? Oh, look at this. This beautiful, old school Buck Challenger. Not Buck, Browning Challenger. I was going to say Buck Mark. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? This is even heavier. This is a 2.5-pound pistol. riding with a little Nutnfancy fluorescent paint front sight modification. This is a 10 round mag, so it's standard. But I think that Colt Walther at 12 rounds is a better value when it comes to plinking, which is, I guess, another POU you can do. Just buy it for plinking, goofing around. More rounds is funner. I've always said that. I'll always maintain that. I want to reload less when I'm shooting, not more. It also has a ridiculous magazine disconnector. This one is already in it. In other words, if the magazine's out of the pistol, you cannot fire the gun. Hate that. It is easily defeated. As you can see for the review, I did not defeat this one. We may end up selling this gun after all anyhow. So that's that. I wished it didn't. I don't like it. The magazines are actually quite heavy, quite substantial, and very reliable as far as how they load, apparently how they feed, how they present the cartridge to the gun. There is a plastic floor plate on it, which bugs me. I mean, if we're going to make it this heavy, it is a substantial magazine. Well, let's put a steel floor plate on it, why don't we? Okay, this gun is not about lightweight. It's about mimicking the 1911 format. On to accuracy. Dudes, I hope I cruise to this review. I would love it. This is a huge selling point to this gun for me personally, the accuracy. And it is very impressive. Back in 11, when I first started shooting this gun with the crew, we went to Impact Guns. We did several speed drills with it, which with any reliable 22 pistol is super fun. Speed drills will be where you stand at 5 yards and they're basically combat engagements. 5 rounds, wherever you want. You can do it all kinds of things. I do it 5 rounds head, 5 rounds chest, just for you're changing where you're aiming. This is what we came out with. This is Tactical Doodle, my son. Lighten it up with a SIG 1911 22. That was back, heck, 1 year ago. November 2011. Here I come. Not doing so great in the head area. Not so much. Speed drills though, that's my excuse, sticking with it. But I owned it in the chest. Ouch! Oh, lit him up. And we had Derek from Impact Guns step on in, step on up. Speed drills, nice job, D. Nice job, headshot right there. So that was really good. Back in November of 11. And that's off whistle, so you just induce a little bit of stress. Pop, 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 pop. Way fun. If you can only shoot in an indoor range, I highly recommend that drill. That's interesting, Nutnfancy, but what about actual accuracy? Okay, here you go. I think I have more targets. This is the only one I'm motivated enough to find for you. Super X. I think all of this is Winchester Super X, and this is at 16 yards, not 25. Not a great group here, very unimpressive. Okay, this is what the gun does. That's realistic. That's a great group. Great group. Semi-rapid, great group. I'll say extraordinarily accurate, this gun. It is its biggest selling point to me. That's a fixed barrel, simple blowback design. We would expect great accuracy out of it. And I think a lot of that has to do with what I think are pretty good sights. On this GSG / SIG 1911-22. They're not really fiber optic. It's actually just colored plastic inserts with high contrast. I don't know if those the slide mill cuts would accept a regular 1911 sight set, but to me it's a 22. Do I want to go out and spend $150 on sights for this thing? I don't. No way. I mean, the sights kind of got to be right, otherwise I'm not buying the gun. And the good news is they were well regulated, as you saw, and if you need to drift them left and right, you can. You can see the set screw there with the rear dovetail. They are made of plastic. I mean, this isn't a $1,000 1911, so they're going to cut costs somewhere. That's where they're doing it. Plastic sights. Does that bother me? Not for this gun. I mean, this is a 22. So would I like to see a Novak super high quality sight set, something like, I don't know, Dillon or those Dawson precision sights? Yeah, I would, but you ain't going to get that for free. Incidentally, the construction of the gun, this is an aluminum slide, and I think die cast frame. That's where the weight's coming from. Anytime you die cast something, it can be pretty heavy. So for a 22 long rifle, apparently good enough. Other ergonomics. There's your front end. Nothing to really talk about there. I'm just going to go over a takedown from the manual here in a minute. No rail like we talked about. Standard trigger guard, 1911 style. That is to say it's kind of small. Let's compare it against the 178011. Huh. Exactly the same. Like I said, standard 1911. No big deal. Ventilated trigger. There is some movement in the trigger, however. Let me see this. About on par with any other 1911, out of the box, non-customized, I'm talking. The trigger pull on this one is 5.5 pounds. Normally I don't dry fire 22s, but I'll do it for the... Remember this, by the way. See that? I got to really depress that beaver tail. 5.5 pounds. It's okay. It's nothing special. There's definitely a lot better out there. 22, you could probably customize it so it's better. That's the trigger. Slide stop, safety, very 1911-ish. In fact, it's very similar to this Smith & Wesson. It does have an ambi safety on it. I hate ambi safeties myself. I'm a righty. I don't need it. Lefties, you'll like that though, albeit your your slide release is still over on the left side. But you can use it. You can mill this off if it bugged you, or just put a left dedicated one in. But again, you're going to kind of throw your value equation out of kilter by doing that. The more you put into this. But if it's your only gun, what the heck. You can see the widths on both of these guns. Center fire on the left, rim fire on the right, obviously. Very similar. I'm talking the safeties right here. One thing I did not like about this gun, and I've seen it in several 1911 22s, is that it did not have a positive safety on it. I say did because when I sent this back to SIG, I said, hey, can you please make that more positive while you're at it? They did it. Thank you, Sig Sauer. They did it. So now, pretty positive. If we're comparing it against a Smith & Wesson 1911, honestly, it's about the same. Out of box, I can't say it was that way for the GSG. It just wasn't. It was, and I think that's a safety issue myself because you put it in your holster. We've talked about that out in the desert in our shooting drills. You just accidentally do this. You don't even know it. We've had shooters out there do that, and then they pull their 1911 out, no safety on, and then you're looking at a single action disaster if this is contacted and the beaver tail is squeezed. So that does scare me a little bit, can't lie. That is a skeletonized trigger. By the way, you see how that beaver tail gets in the way? It's just a little bit, we're talking ergos here. I don't like that, how it's dished out, and it makes one-handed cocking of the 1911-22 just a little bit more difficult. It is non-standard. Again, you could probably put a different one in there, a shorter one, more abbreviated. This is more cupped. Not sure why that's on there, but it just bugs me. So cocking it is probably a two-handed affair if you want to do it. Nothing to really, no complaints on the skeletonized hammer. Beaver tail, I wish it had a raised hump. Several times during shooting this gun, I thought I had it locked in the hand. I'm sitting there popping rounds, pull the trigger, nothing happens. Turns out I've released my grip a little bit and the grip safety engaged. I can't say that's never happened to me on a normal 1911, to be honest with you, but it's much rarer, especially if you have a speed bump on it, or some people call that a memory pad on your beaver tail. Ergonomics. No checkering on the front strap. That's a money saver. This is die cast as well, so that'd be very difficult to put on there, if they could at all. This is a mimmed part, kind of curved, ergonomically speaking, and the magazine well is very GI 1911-ish. In other words, there's no funneling at all for this one. By comparison, the Smith & Wesson 178-011, you can see that there is the milling. Is that a big deal? I like it. I like it when I can get it. But you ain't getting it here in the GSG. Not so much. I love the grips. Like I said, they're also very tractionable. A word I've been making up lately. I like them. Good looking. I would have no intention of swapping these out. They go well with the coloration. Are they authentic in whatever sense you want to say? I don't know. I don't know. Field strip and maintenance. That was your ergonomic rundown. Hope you liked it. I'm going to take this gun down. I'm just going to refer you to the manual, and there you go. I think there have been some complaints about how difficult this gun is to take down. I wouldn't say it's like difficult. It's not super easy or super fast. it is a little bit different than your normal 1911. Just take out your slide stop. There's a, well, you can see the fixing pan right here. You're going to take that out. I think that takes an Allen wrench. It's been so long since I took this gun apart, I can't even remember. There you go, right there. So that involves a little tiny tool that can get lost. That sucks. Pull that off. There's your main components. Right there. Oil appropriately. You know, I got inside this gun, I was looking, I was like, I wonder how durable this thing's going to be. I think pretty durable from what I've seen. I didn't see any unusual battering. Look in the comments of guys who own the GSG 1911, SIG 1911-22. They may give you some insight on that. I think mostly you're going to, as far as reliability goes, it's going to be thumbs up. That's all I'm going to say about field strip. I will say this though, when we talk about reliability, and it's kind of related to field strip maintenance more or less. And I'll tell you what, I'm just going to jump into reliability right now. This is what you want to see with a 22 pistol, whether it's one like this that mimics a centerfire or any other, is you're going to have a low enough slide mass where that little tiny underpowered 22 long rifle can reciprocate it. There's some manufacturers that just don't get this, and so they'll have a steel slide or a lot of mass up here, and lo and behold, there's jams, failures to feed, all that other stuff. What you want is this. Look how slick this is now. There's like hardly any movement. When it was failing to feed, jamming, and it did so repeatedly on multiple outings, this thing has 7 outings under its belt. I said, you know what, I think I'm just going to take it back to the shop myself. I'm going to take the gun apart. I'm just going to flitz the crap out of the slide rails, buff them, and get it nice and smooth. Just like I did with the CZ P07 Duty. If you watch that review, that's what I did with that one. And I think it would have helped. But honestly, it's really not my problem out of the box. And it's not your problem either. It's the manufacturer's. And the gun does have a lifetime warranty. Take advantage of it, albeit sending it in is a hassle and it costs money, ain't gonna lie. But when it came back, the safety was fixed, and I took the gun out, pretty much 100% reliable. Even with bulk ammunition. That's right, even with bulk ammunition, like federal bulk. And I'm talking about when you don't have a failure of the gun to fire, which is more frequent than we want with bulk. In other words, you'll just get a primer strike, the gun will not go off. It's really not the gun's fault. There's just no priming material in that particular cartridge. Other than that, pretty reliable from what I've seen. Still a 22, it will still choke here and there. That's just the way it is with 22s, all 22s. But it was night and day difference from the way the gun was running before. It was pretty much miserable before. All types of jams, left and right, and we were pissed. I was like, are you kidding me? This is a SIG running crappy. Not really a SIG, but if you're going to put your name on it, you know, get it squared away, dudes. It's not the first time we've seen it. It's not going to be the last. The good news is that SIG stepped up. They did a great job in fixing the pistol. Now it's pretty squared away. Cool. There you go. Like we said, and I'm kind of going to flex in accessories and versatility here. You can put some 1911 parts on this. Just depends on if they're going to fit or not. You might have to gunsmith. And more importantly, it depends if you want to spend the money on it. I don't know about you, but I just don't know if I would. You know, there's other ways I'd want to spend my gun money than perhaps putting $300 of parts into a 22. You could be different. Now that I think about it, I think that is a proprietary dovetail on those, so it won't take standard 1911 sights. That takes us to value. Is the gun worth it? Well, first you get this awesome little manual. You think you get one magazine, so you got to go out and buy another one. That blows. I think every pistol made in the world should come with at least two mags. Then you get this standard SIG carry case. All for around about $375 to $425, depending where you buy it and what model of SIG 1911-22 you get. There's all kinds of competitive options if you stay in the realm of 1911. I showed you one, the Kimber conversion. I still recommend it. I think it's good. I have heard a lot of problems with it depending on frames. Some frames it just won't like. Kimber also has very good customer service. They'll hook you up. They have the tactical solutions. 2211 out there. I can't remember if I shot that when we went up to TacSol with Keith. I think we did. And I think it ran pretty good. I just don't remember. So many guns, so much time has passed. 4140 steel, I think, is what that 1911 conversion uses. And that, to me, is alarming because what we talked about, mass. You have the little tiny Browning 1911 22. It's 85% form factor, made of aluminum. Very cool. I've heard great reports on it. I don't have trigger time on it, nor would I personally buy one. I like the full-size form factor of this. To me, it's funner. The longer sight radius. As kind of a second kind of cool, I could see getting the Browning. Definitely for training, I would go with this one. I will reiterate what I've said before. Shooting rimfire is not the same as shooting centerfire. You can get your muscle memory down and where the controls are, the sights, your trigger press, your breathing, but you need to go ahead and buck up and spend the money on 45 ACP to get really good with it. Especially 45 ACP because it bucks a little bit more than the other stuff. American Tactical Imports. We talked to them at SHOT Show. Great folks. They also, I think, import a version of the GSG 1911. Same gun as this, made same factory. It's railed, and it comes with a threaded barrel. I think it's the AD/Ops model, running around $350 to $400. Now, I didn't mention this. I will now. This actually has a sleeved barrel on it. You can screw this off, probably find an adapter, and put a suppressor on it, if and you want. So that's kind of cool. We talked about the Colt Walther produced 1911 at 12 rounds. I would prefer that one, from what I know, just for the fact that it has 12 rounds versus 10. I don't know about, actually I do know about its reliability because PFI dude's got one. He's put a fair amount of rounds through his and he's had nothing but glowing reports. So there's just a minor data point. Chiappa 1911-22, they make it out of Chiapalloy, which is probably, I don't know, die cast just like this one. That's $250, and I think that's a really low budget 1911-22. Probably could run great. There's a couple options. I know I'm not covering them all. Track record, almost done. It's spotty. I'm not going to lie with you. The SIG 1911-22 started off with an abysmal track record here in the Nutnfancy project on multiple outings and temperature conditions to include shooting in the cold, snowy conditions. It was not reliable. With high quality premium ammunition, full impulse ammunition like the CCI Mini Mag Solids.
Cheap too.
I forgot to tell you that. So when all the jams are happening, it was actually with the CCIs. And if a gun doesn't, a 22 pistol doesn't work with the CCIs, we've got an issue, Houston. It needs some work. Send it back to SIG, fixed, running almost 100% now. So the track record, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I think most guys are having great experience with their GSGs. You're going to see that in the comments. Hey, we love it. It's running great. And this could have been just an anomaly that happens all the time. As the gun is fixed from SIG, I am inclined to keep it because it is so darn accurate. Very accurate. I don't even know if I represented that well, but at 7 yards, I can shoot one hole with this gun with a quality ammunition. Same size and weight as a 1911 format, more or less. 34, 35 ounces versus 41. Great sights. Some of the downsides I've talked about. 10-round magazines, I wish there were 12. Magazine disconnect safety, I hate that. You can defeat it easily. Big, goofy, cupped beaver tail, that needs to be worked around or dealt with. I would probably just deal with it. And then make sure you fully depress the beaver tail. I think the price is in line though. I don't think it's outlandishly priced. I think it represents a great value if it's running very well for you. I think you'll derive much shooting enjoyment from it. And you're spending 3 versus 33 cents a round. That in itself is enjoyable. That's a Nutnfancy review.